News. With my colleagues, Quanshia News. The Alex Murdaugh case will actually go to the sentencing phase after Murdaugh was convicted of killing his wife and also his son. The convicted and very beleaguered, much maligned former attorney in South Carolina was convicted, found guilty on last past Thursday. The sentencing phase will be more so on Tuesday. Vladimir Putin says that he will still go after the West in any way or means possible. The possibility may loom that the West could be still trying to funnel in more ammunition to go to Ukraine. Also, Putin says that he may end up trying to even divulge the West of some of the financial means as well. Stocks on stocks on Wall Street ended up down this past week, but in more of an upward trend. It seems that the jobless unemployment rate and the jobless claims have gone down. President Biden will give a comments on the economy as far as how to fix it and how to actually bring down the interest rate as well. So prices for other things such as utilities, fuel, and also food can come down. More in a moment. In the world of sports, the NBA will be taking a look at the actual antics of Memphis Grizzlies guard John Morant. Now, the actual league will take a look into the investigation of Morant holding a gun while at a Denver Gentlemen's Club after the team lost their game against the Denver Nuggets on Thursday. Now, Morant says that he will take a few days away to get his mental state back together. But it also states that for some reason or other, Morant is not really going to be back on the court as well. The possibility may loom at this 2 to 3 game suspension of Morant, which will put him back on the floor against Dallas at home next weekend, could be possibly longer. If so, the NBA could actually suspend Morant for the rest of the regular season with actual eligibility to come back for the playoffs. March Madness will start in the towards the two steps of Texas, the North and the South version of it, as some of the tournaments will end for men and women this weekend. They will announce the actual brackets of where everyone's going next week. Now, weather for your area. The Houston metropolitan area is going to look very beautiful today, and it's going to warm up a little bit with the warm up continuing throughout the rest of the week. Now, the actual temperature today will be 73 degrees, with the high tomorrow will be 84. Remember, there is a high pollen alert around the area right now, 74. That's going to be good for your news. I'm Michael. This is the RSN News Network. Yes. is the RSN News Network. You're listening to the Weekend Vibe on the RSN News Network with MC Lewis and Quanishia. Get in and talk now at 1-800-337-71 or 1-713-535 talk or 1-415-53443 talk. Now from Atlanta and Houston, here's MC Lewis and Quanishia. Thank you very much for joining us on the RSN News Network's The Weekend Vibe. I'm just truly MC Lewis with you. Uh, Juanisha is going to be actually joining me in a minute here. And we got her on as well. There we go. I haven't seen her in 30 years, seems like. Anyway, Juanisha, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? It's sunny here. I am. I'm great.
It's,
I'm awesome.
it's sunny where you are finally?
Yes, it's sunny. It's warm. I feel amazing.
Oh, it's great, great. It's sunny here too. It's a little bit. It was cooler, breezy, but now we have the sinus and all the other stuff and pollen, and you're sneezing, blah blah blah. And it's crazy. In event, don't forget you can follow Cornisha and I on Twitter on the Vibe Weekend on Twitter as well, and just don't forget, we're going to keep, I guess, pushing her book. The joy I found, and it's a great resources as well for Joy Green, our contributing hostess who was here last week as our guest. I actually got my book. I'm
Really?
starting to read it.
What day did you get it?
Yeah, it's. I started reading the first page last night, but then I fell asleep. But I'm starting to read the rest of it. Sounds really good. Sounds like it's going to be. It's collaborative. I don't have it with me because I'm on the road, but I don't have it with me. But I tell you what, it's looks like a good read. It's got so collaborative, has so many people on there. It's just unbelievable, unbelievable. You get your copy, you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to get rid of this. I hope it rains. I'll read the rest of the day. Anyway, um, I guess today's topic, let's go with this, the burnout of life. As you probably know, you and I know, during the week, our week, we actually have a high volume of work. And as you probably know, a lot of other people like us are dealing with, especially moms. You know, they deal with a lot of different things when they're working on. I guess when they're working at work. Let's talk about the burnout of life. What have you seen? And I know in your where you are in your life, how has it's really not even be hard for me to say, but how has really work? How difficult is it for you to work and balance life? You know, life and work at the same time.
I feel like I'm blessed now, like in the work environment that I'm in, just working from home, things like that. I feel like I have more
Hmm.
control over how I balance that now.
Hmm.
In past situations, like some places that I've worked, 'cause I know I worked one place where I had to drive 45 minutes to the place, 45
Whoa.
minutes on a good day. And,
Hmm.
some days it would be an hour and a half. And, when you calculate that, that's like at least 2 hours out of your day gone just trying to get to work and trying to get back from work. And it just, that kind of makes you, I don't know, it makes you sad. It kind of like, disheartens you. And, um,
Hmm.
yeah, it just makes you not even wanna do it every single day, especially if it's not something that you are extremely passionate about. Um,
Yeah.
you're spending so much time, in like working, commuting, things like that. Um,
Mhm.
so I feel like now I'm in a good spot, like where I'm able to do that, and it's been pretty easy. Like I can schedule time for myself a lot
Mhm.
easier
Mhm.
right now, versus like in past situations.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. And I think, being at home, not only with just, where we're familiar with during the week, but all in other situations, I can actually do everything. Only time I'm on the road, like now, just doing, finishing up uh, a state tournament broadcasting, and I'm on the road because there's playoffs. Uh, in sports, but still, I think in past situations, there were times where I had to commute and we wouldn't get off of work until 9:30 p.m. Central. And by the time I get home, it's time for me to get up, go to the gym, get to this job. And sometimes we work overtime. I wouldn't get off till like 11 Central time. And then by the time I get home, it's just almost like, am I back in Las Vegas or going to college or am I on a 24-hour circle, And you just really, it's almost like you're burned out because of the factors. And I think, let me ask you this as a woman, a young woman, under 30, um, do you see that more women within your age bracket are burned out that are more mothers, like single moms or moms that are, of young children?
I've definitely seen burnout in women my age, and it typically is moms who have other responsibilities outside of themselves. Because I say a lot of the time, like I don't know how some people do it, honestly, because
Mhm.
I can get burned out, and it's just me. Like I only have me to really worry about. Um, like I don't even understand how people can do
Mhm.
what I do with with children. I know at one point I was working with kids, like in a it was in a facility
Right.
with kids, and I knew some people who had kids, and I'm like, I don't know
Mhm.
how they can work with other people's children for 8 hours a day, sometimes more, just
Right.
depending on if they need
Right.
it, and then they go home to their own kids, and they have to deal with actually being that child's mother, and all of that. And I'm like, I don't know how they do it. Like the 8 hours is enough for me.
I totally agree with you. And I think, I know, and where we are, um, we know a couple of young women, and I've just met, excuse me, I've just met two within a new project that are in the same boat, and I think the frustration part for them is more so of, you know, working schedules and getting a little bit more of an earlier start because you're talking about childcare, daycare, blah blah blah. You got to get there at a certain time, or if not, you're paying an extra hour, and in these financial or even sudden financial difficult times, it's very hard for, especially for a young woman to really be more, be able to flex a lot of her time, even if the kid, and as we know, one person, uh, if the kid is at home with you, and you're at work, even at working remotely from home, it can be it can be something. Um, let's talk about also the burnout when have you been actually working at a place where you are getting slowly burned out?
Hmm.
Yeah. What was that experience like for you?
I did work at this, like it was this place. It was right after I graduated,
Mhm.
and it kind of pertained to my major and things like that. But the way it was, the scheduling, how they did the scheduling, it
Mhm.
was um, they needed a certain ratio of people to be there at all times.
Mhm.
So, like, say I work from 2 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
PM, and they don't have enough people to cover the 12 to 7 AM shift. Somebody's gonna have to stay. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were getting burnt out in that type of situation, and they allow a lot of overtime. So there were some people doing like 3, 4, 5 days where they worked 16 hours in a row, and
Mm-hmm.
it was very unhealthy. Like
I can
a lot
imagine.
of
I
young
can
people trying to
imagine.
get, as much money as possible, and then the company, like, they needed people because nobody really wanted to work there or, like, work the extra shifts and things like that. So I saw people get burnt out quickly, like, very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
that, because they're thinking when they're going into it, they're like, "I could do that, like, it's nothing," like, but
Mm-hmm.
weeks of doing 16-hour shifts is like, you're not gonna be able to keep doing that at all.
No, and I totally agree with you. I think that the burnout of for me it was just more so of I remember back when I went back to Las Vegas and was working a government contract position with a titanium company, and it was just contract, and it was like a short, maybe 6 month type of deal until these union people came off a strike. So I would leave home at 4:30 in the morning. We had to be to work at 5, and then we would get off, but we would have to get off until the last. We'd have to wait for the to load the last I guess the last cargo truck or something, and that would be till like maybe 9 o'clock. By the time I'm back in Las Vegas at home, that's a 45 to 50 minute drive. That's half of my night going to sleep, because I'm going back
Yeah, that's literally your
the
whole day.
whole night, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, oh no. And after 4 weeks, because you're talking about, I'm a solid 210, muscularly solid 210. I'm 6 feet probably right at. But you're talking about titanium plates or little things that look like, nuclear missiles that you had to grab for 12 to 13 hours and make sure that everything was in line. And I'm like, man, if one of those hit you, it's like, never mind. Get a will. Get a will. But after a while, I'd say about a month, I was really burned out because I was between that and working at the Air Force Base. And as a civilian, and it's either going back full time to work as a civilian at the Air Force Base, or oh, it was crazy. And there was one other job I remember. I think my burnout was just the other employees were not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I had to actually clean up for them, the daytime people. And this was at a mortgage company, but I was either between, um, I was actually in leadership at the time. I started as an agent. I was at leadership at a mortgage company. And you would see a lot of the young women that had kids that were burned out, but you saw some women that really actually um, they were trying to do hanky panky at work. Go out to the parking lot, take long breaks, be in the car for like an hour and a half, and um, it was just so ridiculous. And I think if you're burned out, if you're really, I think that causes other people to do their job more twice as much, and you're not really because other people are not focused on what they're doing. So you have to pick up their slack, your slack, and it becomes a lot more. That becomes too much for us. Um, you're listening and watching the Weekend Vibe right here on the RSN News Network and RTV Television. MC Lewis with Quanshia with you on a Sunday. It is March. This is probably the fastest I've seen a year go by. Wasn't it January 1 about maybe 2 weeks ago?
right?
We'll be in April. Oh my goodness, we'll be in April. Um, an event on the 18th or the 25th, and we'll love this, Quenisha. Our best friend, our friend Joy Green will rejoin us. She has some new topics and some new stuff to talk about as far as we'll talk more. She'll talk more about mental health as we talk about that, but mental health as far as domestic violence is concerned. And because it's really hard, it's really big and around it, and especially now it's gone up nationwide as well, even at the end of the pandemic. Um, well, as you probably know, just not skipping this our topic of subject. As you probably know, I know close by you because South Carolina is not that far away from you. But as you probably know, Eric Murdoch, I think it was Murdoch, Matt Murdoch, Eric Murdoch? Yeah, the actual former attorney in South Carolina, Eric Murdoch, I believe that's his last name. He was actually convicted of the murders of his wife, I believe, and son.
Hmm.
And the conviction will most likely come up on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Your thoughts on that, Quanisha?
I didn't read heavy into the case, but I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is something that you see on, like, CSI or,
Yes,
those type of
yes,
shows. I'm like, this is crazy.
yes.
Like, because
Nuts.
wasn't he trying to cash out a life insurance policy, and then he
Hmm.
tried to fake his own death
Yes,
and everything?
yes. Yeah,
Crazy.
that's nuts. That's nuts. And and really, Quanisha, I think the really big thing was that I followed the case the last 2 weeks of it before the sentencing, and I'm thinking this guy has nothing. He doesn't have a rope to stand on, but life in prison. Because when you say you took money from other people, then it's just telling me that you're okay. You're an attorney, a former attorney, and I'm like, when you kind of know a little bit more about the law before you break the law, no, I don't know. Then to kill your family members and
That's gruesome.
disperse them somewhere else. That's kind of that's a little bit crazy. That's a little bit crazy. Some other things that have gone on as well, as you probably know, if you are a basketball fan, you probably know uh, two athletes, one in Alabama, and the other one, as you probably know, NBA star John Morant, another NCAA star who's actually going to be possibly a high draft pick, Brandon Miller. They were both involved in gun incidents in sports. You probably know Brandon Miller and another young man were played for the Alabama. They played for the Alabama Crimson Tide men's team. They were involved in a murder of a 23-year-old mom of a 1-year-old son, and she just celebrated her 23rd birthday. Miller and the other young man's named Darius Miles, whose uncle plays in the NBA, who played in the NBA. He's retired. Miles is now serving prison time behind it because of the gun. But how the thing is that Brandon Miller is still playing for Alabama, even though he was a person that had the gun in his hand, in his possession. The next one is John Morant. John Morant, great, I guess, basketball athlete, plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. Great friends with Quavo from the Migos, and was at Takeoff's funeral in Atlanta. Um, he was caught with a gun at a gentleman's club in Denver. and he was on Instagram, and he had his shirt taken off, and the gun was pointed down at him. Quanisha, I know there's a lot of people are not sports into it, but when you talk about this generation with guns in their hands under the age of 25, and you're talking about young men who are blowing opportunities, what are your thought process on both of these?
Mm, I do. Well, I've heard a lot about, the increased gun violence, especially in younger people. I don't know. It's interesting because it seems as if they just don't feel as if they have anything to lose, and a lot of these people are very young, like, very
Mm-hmm.
young, 'cause I know there's a lot of things happen in my area, like, in the Atlanta area as far as, like, young guys, like, robbing people,
Mm-hmm.
into people's houses, shooting them, things like that, like, very young people, um, just acting as if they don't have a whole life to live, like, ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's crazy. It's sad, just them falling into things like that or falling into whatever pressures that they feel they need to be like a gangster or like a trapper or whatever.
Right, right. And I think let me ask you this because I know you went to, I know you went to college. I know you're a major, and a lot of people are majoring in law enforcement and even in social justice as well. Let me ask you this: is this more of excuse me, a generation that's going to go south? It is like you don't. The other 25ers are going to tell me you don't tell me anything. I'm going to do what I need to do, and I don't want restrictions. Is it a generation that doesn't want restrictions on itself and just want to be free of what I want to do? If I want to hold a gun in my hand, I'll hold a gun in my hand. I'm 18, I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm 19. Do you feel that they're wanting more freedom, or is it more it's just, look, I'm just gonna be a rebel?
I think it just could be, the like youthful like recklessness, like
Mm-hmm.
when you're young you're a little bit more reckless anyway, so I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the older I become, like the more I'm gonna see younger people and be like, oh my god, like they really like
Right.
going crazy, like I feel like
Right.
every generation gets more and more scared for the generations like after them.
Mm-hmm.
um but I do feel like they do have like young people have so much information these
Mm-hmm.
days. They know how to do so many things. They're so like in tune with like the world and everything else that's going on. Like they can be in tune or they can research. They can know whatever it is they want to know in like 5 seconds. So I do feel like they feel as if they probably know a lot more about life and like the nuances of life than they do, just because
Mm-hmm.
they have access to so much information
Right.
um, regarding life, like versus, 30 years ago, if you didn't know about something, you would have to kind of experience it to know about it, or like really, really have to go somewhere to
Mm-hmm.
find that knowledge.
Right.
But here, like you have a computer in your hand, you can figure out whatever you want to know. Ask anybody any question, and they could give you an answer, and it could be correct or it could be false, but you still think you know the information just
Mm-hmm.
because you looked it up or researched it for 5 minutes or whatever. So I do feel
Yeah.
like like the younger people, um, they do have like a sense of they know, when at the same time you still have to live. Like you have to live life and go through certain things to know what you think you know.
What you
You know?
think you know? Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think the main thing with this generation, and I know back when I was there in their realm right around the late 80s, mid 80s, um, things were different, for me because of the fact is you didn't have, right, definitely back then you didn't have, even in Silicon Valley, California, where I was, you didn't really have the laptops or the PDAs or, like your smartphones where you can go take the phone with you. We had back then, we were working on bricks pretty much, the brick phone that you had in your head. But you didn't really have a lot of technology back then. I think that for me, I think it's more so the expansion of what they see on TV. And there are so many, as you probably know, I mean, uh, everybody's now in a Netflix and chill type of category. Now it's turned into Hulu and Paramount and so many other places and so many other shows that can influence these guys. Um, there were three girls that were 17, 18, and 19 that were both, they were actually promising stars in not only sports, but two of them were promising stars as far as academics were concerned, scholarships that they now have lost. They basically they're investigated now into a beating of a 74-year-old woman in East Houston. And they took her money, and they basically had the one. And you really can't come home now no more, Quanshia, from the store here, because the car is following you, so you have to speed up. And if you're not careful, go around the corner, come back, go around the corner again. Make sure you can find a police officer that can go around the corner with you, because then that will distract that person from jugging you. And this jugging is just more so here, where you could be at the fuel station, and I could pull up next to you and take your purse while you're on the other side. While you're on the side, you can leave the right or left door unlocked. And that's a new trend now, I guess, and it's really, I think it's just really a lot of what you see now, especially with this drag racing. I'm pretty sure you have it in the Atlanta area. Everybody wants to be Fast and Furious 12 or 13 or 14. I don't know. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. You're listening to the Weekend Vibe right here on the RSN News Network and RTV Television. You can follow us on Twitter on The Vibe Weekend. We're going commercial free. I mean, it's a rarity. After this past week, it's a rarity, I guess. Chance to see Quanshia a lot, but anyway, let's go to our next one. And Chris Rock, as you probably know, had his special on I believe it was Netflix, or I think it was Hulu or something, on Friday, in regards to the aftermath of the Will Smith slap and how it had affected him, because they worked together in a lot of projects in the 90s. I'm really thinking, from watching at Quanshia, I was just kind of like, I really don't think Chris Rock really is over what Will Smith did. To me, I think the longevity they had together, working together in projects, especially when he was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a few times. I don't know. It was really interesting. Really interesting. What are your thoughts about? Have you been able to see Creed 3?
Not yet, but I want to. Honestly, mostly for the soundtrack, honestly. Because I don't know if you know the rapper J. Cole. Like, he has
Yes.
a
Yes.
label, and all the people on his label I guess they did the whole soundtrack, him and his label. And I'm very interested to see, like, to watch it with, the music and everything like that. So that made me want to watch the movie. I haven't seen the other two, but I'm gonna watch this one for the soundtrack.
Here's what I'm gonna do, because I don't want to spill the beans. But you're gonna it's I would say, whatever the cost of your ticket is, it's not a wasted trip to go see Creed 3. I won't say anything else about the movie because I've already seen it. But you haven't wasted your time watching a great movie. I think that there's going to be other movies. I know. Oh my goodness, I can't get over this. What was this? The bear, the cocaine bear, or something?
I
And
heard about that.
I looked at that and I said, "Boy, they coming up with everything."
I did not know that was real. I thought somebody was just joking. Like, when I heard about
No,
it, I thought it
and
was
I looked at the thing and I said, "The cocaine bear." Hmm, okay. Okay.
very interesting.
Okay, let's imagine. And now they're going to have a, um, oh boy, they're going to have something to do with, I don't know if it was a horse or dog, but it's some NATO or thing. I don't know if it was a horse NATO or dog NATO, where vicious horse, and they already, it's bad enough they're going to have the, the pig massacre back. Somebody's doing something about these. You know how they have the feral animals when they go crazy, and they're going to do something about the feral pigs. But this is going to be the revenge of the. I don't know what it is. It's going to be something to do with the feral, where feral hogs will come in and start to swallow people and eat people. I don't know. Movie people are they find out anything just to get you to get you afraid, and this is like, look, this is put Godzilla 12, and we'll be fine. We'll be okay. You do that. So we can relate to that. Not all this stuff you're making up. What is? Let's get back to our burnout of life. Let's talk about. Let's go to, and I want to get your opinion on the relationship of employer and employee of the 21st century. Do you feel for most companies, not all, but for most companies, do you feel that there is a disconnect because of the fact is the employer is not really, maybe the employees are looking for maybe a 4-day work week and the employer is maybe going another route, or things that just, is it the division maybe perks, or is it the division maybe the way it's structured?
I definitely feel like the structure makes for a division because
Mm-hmm.
um as you know that they say like there's a reason why we have an 8-hour workday, and it like the reason why we have an 8-hour workday isn't even relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it came from working in factories and things like that. Like, they wanted to get, I think, the most amount of like things churned out of the factory, like in
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of like of the
Mm-hmm.
daylight that they had. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's like we don't even have to work that long in reality. Um, because some countries don't even do like a whole 8-hour work. They don't
Mm-hmm.
do like a 5-day week. They don't do that, or, work weekends. Like, some
Right.
countries, like, they literally, like, nobody works, like, these days. Like, you go, hang with your family, like, spend
Mm-hmm.
time with like, for some reason, I guess because, um, everything's run by, money and profits and everything like that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
we feel the need to always have somebody working all the time, or
Mm-hmm.
like the whole society is just gonna stop and cease to exist and just collapse. But it's like, I do feel like a lot of companies and corporations just see people as numbers. They don't see them as actual people. They see them as a means to an end. Like, we need this amount of people. We don't really care how we get them. We don't really care who they are,
Right.
what their
Right.
schedule is, what they need. We need them in here. We need them to do this job. This is how much we can afford to pay them. Okay, let's figure it out from there. Like, and I feel like the more people realize these things, and the more people have like bad job experiences, or they see other people have bad job experiences, the less they want to buy into whatever a company's visions
Offering.
or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
whatever they're saying their vision is, or whoever they say they are, what they represent, the less people want to buy into stuff like that because they know deep down
Mhm.
that the company just sees them as a number and not as a person.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think the really big thing is that um, you really kind of take a look and this is where I think a lot of this stuff leads to burnout because you sign on to something and you really expect that, you expect that commitment. You're blessed with a commitment to be at a place where you're really going to thrive and move up and be promoted. But for some reason or another, you just get to that point where you just kind of like, what happened? After 6 months, after 8 months, after 9 months, after you're promised something, and then it can be any company, and then the companies, can they let the company let you know that, well, the volume's down or this and that or these things, and we were going to promise you a 4-day work week, but now you're gonna have to work a 6-day work week, and this is not going to be good for you because you had things playing with like family or um, you maybe have like a weekend plan with someone or whatever the case may be. I think that's really the big factor of where a lot of people get burned out at, especially. Let's go with also as we talk about the topic of burnout of life. If most people work a 5-day work week. As you probably know, there are a lot of companies and there are some couple school districts in our area who will start next year with their teachers and administrators working a 4-day work week. Now, the norm is that the actual administration is looking at possibly putting in higher pay and a 4-day work week for all companies in the U.S. next year. Since it's working overseas, could you see a 4-day work week working 4 days on and 3 days off for all companies in the U.S.?
Honestly, I don't. I think for companies where people are just, sitting down all day and, most of their work is done at a desk, like sitting down somewhere, yeah. But other companies where people are actually having to do like, labor, like manual labor, and
Mm-hmm.
having to get up and go somewhere and actually like use their body to work all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
don't see, because it's always those people who are in the worst working situations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, versus everyone else who like um like a 5-day work week for some people is a blessing. Whereas other people, like, they have like crazy schedules, like all over the place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I work 3 days here, 2 days there. I may be off next weekend. I don't know. Like, I'm probably gonna have to come in Sunday night. I don't know. So it's crazy. So I don't see that for them, but like for a regular like desk job, I can
Mm-hmm.
see that.
Yeah, and I totally think that the main thing is that you look at everything from every angle.
Mhm.
For me, I've worked a 4-day on, 3-day off before, but it was in more of a like a warehouse situation where you had to work a 4/12s and you were off those 3 days. But then the reverse of it was that to get the 40, when you did your 3, you were on 13 and you were off that 4. So you work half a day on one of those 4s and then you get your 40. Now, to be really upfront and honest with you, I worked where there was in a warehouse situation where if there's a slack of not that many people and a lot of people call off, you're working a full 5 and a 12, and then you're off those 2 days. And it can be draining because you never know especially in the warehouse industry, you never know, or even if you're out in the construction yard, or labor or whatever, you never know those times where you're going to be on, you're going to be off, you're going to be on, and you're going to work on overtime. It's nuts. Um, it's nuts. You can follow us on Twitter on the Vibe Weekend on Twitter as well, and you can get all your suggestions as well. Um, we will have Joy Green on the 25th. I know this is probably the best month for a lot of school children and their parents. This is probably the worst part of the month. But next week, we will be on. Make sure you set your clocks an hour ahead because next week is daylight savings. So, oh, that's just lovely. We just don't. And you'll be waking up and it's like, oh, it's 12:46 Central. It's 1:46 Eastern. Okay, But we'll be on the same time. Just make sure you set your times. But next week also, I don't know what it is for you in Georgia, Quanshia, but it's spring break for some of the kids in our state. That's going to be great for the parents to figure out what they're going to do with their kids for 2 weeks. I don't know. A week and a half. I don't know. What was spring break? I know you went to college. What was spring break like for you?
Honestly, I don't know. It would just depend on the year. Like sometimes it was, some years it was a time to rest. Some years it was time to party. Some years it was a time to, spend some extended time with family. Because sometimes my parents, they would like to take us on trips and stuff like that, and that would be like the
Right.
perfect time, to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spring break for me was, I think, because going to college in Las Vegas, it was just like you're already there on spring break, and then you come back to Texas, and it was just like there was a spring break down at the beach in Galveston, and a little bit more further south. And I think the witness your first spring break in college when I went to college in Vegas, it was just almost like, okay, there's going to be 10,000 people coming from Southern California, from the East Coast, from everywhere to come flood our city up. And it was just like, and I think when I was in high school in spring break, we would always, would commute back between, Texas and California and stay there for about a week and then fly back to Texas. My parents would always take us to the countryside. Sometimes we'll go to Dallas, see my late father's family, and it was fun. It was just sometimes it would just be sometimes rest. Well, for me, I play baseball, so I would always have a tournament during spring break. But in this survey that I've just seen here on the New York Times, on spring break this year, out of 50 people, all parents stated that they are going to do shorter trips with their children this year. Some of them are going to do they're going to do things such as the mall, was the first answer, the mall. Second answer would be a local water park. And the third answer would be watch family movies together, like Hulu or something that's, kid appropriate. And this really, it's really something, Well, I don't know. This has been another great show. I know we don't have Joy, but it's been a great show. And we're gonna, Quanshia, we're gonna start talking more about employment. We're gonna have Anitra Stewart's gonna be on our last program of the month. What was your first? I don't even know. April's coming. So I'm just letting you guys know we will not be on the air on April weekend of April 1st and 2nd because I'm actually covering the NCAA men's in Houston and the women's basketball tournament in Dallas that whole weekend. And no, it's not an April Fool's joke. but yeah, I'm covering that, and so we will be back on the air on in April on the weekend of the 9th, April 8th and 9th. We'll be back on that weekend. Um, Also, want to give a early birthday month shout out to a good friend of ours. We call her Lolo at where we are. It's her birthday month. So it's all month. So we wanted to give a shout out to her. Also, what are your? I guess we can leave each other with a thought. Um, what's been burning on your mind, Quanisha, the last week as far as your news wise or anything else? What's been burning on your mind?
That's a great question. I don't really have much that's been on my mind. I've been watching just the developments of the city of Atlanta. Just watching what they do because there's a whole area in the city where they've bought up all these buildings, and I'm wondering what they're gonna do with them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I'm excited. I'm a little scared, but I'm interested, intrigued just um,
By
by the
it's
growth of the city, honestly,
mhm,
everything like that.
the development of
Mhm.
the city as well. I'm intrigued. What is intriguing me, it's more so of concerned me is the fact is there's so much development in the city of Houston that basically a city now that has gone through a hurricane in 2020 2017 and now has eroded, the land is eroded, and since that time more construction companies and more development companies have now resurfaced the roads. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me you want to put a actual freeway will go underneath downtown Houston and will run through downtown Houston as a tunnel? Okay. So you're asking for maybe another disaster. Okay, how many people die or whatever. Because the
What's the
thing
difference?
is, the next major hurricane will probably most likely will probably be Katrina because of all of what they're doing. Resurfacing roads will not make of anything. Just face the facts. The city of Houston, half of it is actually underwater. You keep building stuff around it, there's going to be more people at risk. That's what I think. That's going to do it for us. We have had a very good time talking about the actual show itself. And don't forget our sports programming will come on later on. Quanisha, it has just been a pleasure seeing you because I know I don't get a chance to see you too much during the week. But anyway, thank you very much for joining both of us on the Weekend Vibe on the RSN News Network and RTV Television. We thank you very much for being here as well. Quanisha, MC Lewis, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week on the RSN News Network Weekend Vibe. You listen to Weekend Vibe on the RSN News Network and RTV Television.